Imagine a sweet schoolgirl with an innocent smile on her face. And now imagine that same girl committing a heinous crime that shocks the whole country. And then, as is common with crimes in Japan, involving pretty girls with anime and manga characters. From anime and manga, she becomes a household name on the internet. She's admired, artwork is drawn, fan clubs are organized. Fan clubs on forums, it's crazy. This is the story of Natsumi Tsuji, better known as Nevada Tan. In this video, we'll break it down in detail and find out how she went from an ordinary schoolgirl to a monster.
Strange stories.
To understand the context, here's what needs to be said. In 1997, the country was shocked by a gruesome incident. A 14-year-old schoolboy decided to kill an 11-year-old boy on the school grounds in a particularly gruesome way. The sight was horrifying, and naturally the government began to think about what to do about it. It was decided to lower the age at which teenagers could be sentenced to prison time from 14 to 16. The next situation, 2001, Osaka Prefecture. A man named Takuma Mamoru broke into the Ikeda Elementary School building with a knife. There were 8 victims and 15 injured. It all happened in just a few minutes. He was 37 years old at the time. According to various reports, he had suffered from mental disorders since childhood, was in prison, and even tried to commit suicide. Then he would be executed. But at the same time, the government would once again think about protecting school children. Then, many educational institutions have increased security measures to counter such threats. And unfortunately, the lowering of the age of imprisonment and the neglect of school security eventually had to serious consequences, such as the case we're about to face today. And finally, Nevada Tan. For most of the story, I'll just call her Nevada. Not much is known about her personal life, particularly because she didn't share any information herself. She was not known to talk much to others, and even when she did talk to her parents, she was usually grumpy. Her home life seemed relatively normal, relatively because she was an otaku, which is what they call an avid fan of anime and manga. And while just being an otaku is normal, especially in Japan, here was a more serious case. She had an unhealthy interest in horror, especially the more violent and gory subgenres. And one of her favorite works was a movie in which a group of high school students land on an island and fight using various weapons. It was a concept she found intriguing and enjoyed watching it immensely. She spent most of her time in her room surfing the internet, putting on headphones and listening to music. In the words of her mother, the internet changed Nevada, and not for the better. She eventually created her own page on the Cafesta platform. There, she could post information about herself and create her own avatar. There, she met her classmate Satomi Mitarai, and they became friends, after which they began to socialize in real life. Satomi was 12 years old at the time, and Nevada was 11 years old. She never had any problems at school, and enjoyed spending time with Nevada. They even joined a basketball club together where they practiced after school. However, Nevada had to leave the group to focus on her studies, and maybe leaving the club didn't seem like a big deal at the time, but it was probably the catalyst that triggered Nevada's problems. As her story is further explored, it becomes apparent that her unhealthy preoccupations with violence, death, and cruelty, combined with her isolation and lack of any kind of socialization, eventually led her to some pretty bizarre behaviors. Nevada Tan herself was used to becoming increasingly isolated from the world, and the internet was the only place to socialize. As her classmates and teachers later told her, her grades were slightly above average, and she herself was a quiet and calm girl. But all this lasted until 5th grade, that is, until her mental state began to unravel. Many people noted that she suddenly became unable to look people in the eye when talking and began to get into a rage over small things that annoyed her, while others around her, these small things seemed unimportant. She insulted her classmates, and sometimes even held a clerical knife in a threatening manner. Nevada saw herself as an author or manga artist, practicing and composing her own stories. One of her stories was very similar to Battle Royale, and in it all, the students were forced to fight to the last survivor. But the best part was that all the characters had names and personality suspiciously similar to her own classmates. This is sure to sound horrible, but she even thought of cruel and creative ways to end everyone in the flow of the story. Next, the events leading up to the crime itself begin. In case you haven't forgotten, Nevada had a friend named Satomi, who she basically stopped communicating with after she quit basketball. Somehow they managed to become friends again, though the friendship was somewhat strained. One day, in a rare, playful mood, Nevada jumped on Satomi's back at school just for fun. Then Satomi jokingly told her she was heavy. Nevada was stunned and angrily replied, "Don't be rude." So you realize that even though she was quite thin and Satomi said it for fun, she was deeply offended by the comment. Soon, Nevada, to put it mildly, was no longer liked by her classmates, and as her relationship with Satomi deteriorated, so did the usual school peripeteia. Satomi wrote something about Nevada in Cafest's profile. Nevada went to her account and deleted her avatar, and she had a fight with a few other kids. All in all, the usual childish squabbles. But then Satomi did something she shouldn't have done, especially with Nevada, with her mental health, which I told you about. She wrote again and this time insulted her for real, calling her heavy again, probably because it caused a negative reaction last time. Nevada, at this time, trying to save face, ordered her to take it back and delete the comment. And naturally, Satomi refused. Nevada, getting more and more annoyed at the comments not stopping, at being insulted and unable to do anything about it, finally came to a climax, a burning desire to deal with Satomi once and for all. She thought about it for a long time and considered different options, such as she later told me, ranging from an ice pick to simple strangulation, and then came the first and, for one of the heroines, the last day of summer, June 1st, 2004. The Japanese school year starts in April, and summer vacation lasts from the end of July to the end of August, so school children are still working. A few hours after school started, students began preparing for lunch. Nevada approached Satomi and asked her to come with her for a moment. She led her to an empty classroom at the end of the hallway and closed the curtains, then sat Satomi down in a chair and coldly told her, "You're going to die today." Then Nevada asked if Satomi wanted her to cover her eyes with a handkerchief when it happened, but she refused. So Nevada covered Satomi's eyes with her right hand, and with her left, she pulled out a box cutter, and in a swift motion, she slit her throat from behind. In a panic, Satomi jumped up sharply from her chair and tried to resist, which caused Nevada to act, delivering several blows to her arms, especially her right wrist. Satomi, suffering from severe blood loss, quickly fell to the floor. After a brief scuffle, Nevada crouched beside on the ground next to her and waited for Satomi to stop moving. Once she was sure she was dead, she walked towards the classroom. She came back to the classroom completely covered in blood. She stood there with a bloody knife and a handkerchief clutched in her hand. The teacher, thinking she had somehow hurt herself, ran over to her and examined her, but she didn't see any wounds. Then she understandably began to panic and demand answers. And finally, Nevada said, "It's not my blood," then pointed toward the room where she had just watched Satomi's last moments and said, "I did something bad." Nevada led the teacher to the body, sobbing all the way. As soon as the teacher saw Satomi in a pool of blood, she immediately called for help. While she was still breathing, other teachers and students came running to see the blood splattered on the walls and the broken-off blade of a clerical knife covered in blood. The blade of a clerical knife covered in blood. An ambulance crew was immediately called, which didn't make it in time by the time they arrived. Satomi's heart had already stopped. She died of blood loss, and it was useless to take her to the hospital. At some point, Satomi's father arrived and saw the horrible scene for himself. The cuts on her neck were up to 10 centimeters deep. The cuts on her left wrist were so deep that the bone was visible. The scene was so horrific that many students, staff, school staff, and first responders ended up with post-traumatic stress disorder. The attacker, a meek-looking 11-year-old girl, was taken into custody. She decided to open up a bit. She was questioned voluntarily. She admitted to the investigators that she had attacked Satomi in a tearful confession. She said she realized she had done a bad thing, which was an understatement to say the least. Her mother rushed to the station. She tried to get some information out of Nevada to find out what happened, but she mostly cried and kept quiet. Nevada spent the night at the police station sobbing and refusing to eat. She repeatedly apologized to any police officers who happened to stop by. For a while, she was reluctant to explain the reason for her attack on Satomi, which confused the police officers and made them literally beg for answers. In the beginning, she just said she had no motive, that she did it for no reason. It's quite possible that she started to realize how ridiculous it looked and felt embarrassed or ashamed. We'll never know for sure. But shortly afterward, she confessed to police that an online argument had led to the murder. She told police that Satomi had once been a close friend of hers, but she had started writing comments about her online that she didn't like. She said, "I asked her to stop, but she didn't stop. We had a fight, and I got tired of it all." Naturally, the public was shocked when the murder was reported, mainly because of the age of the two children and the brutality of the attacks. Satomi's father spoke at a press conference, saying that he has no idea how this could have happened. He can't understand how it happened, and he can't comprehend the loss of his daughter. And I would remind you that shortly before that, the age at which a teenager can be incarcerated was lowered to 14, and Nevada was only 11 at the time. So it didn't help in this case. She was eventually placed in a correctional facility for 2 years, but the bonding period was extended for another 2 years because of her inability to communicate with others. She was later found to have Asperger's syndrome. Then, in 2008, when her sentence expired, the authorities did not insist on extending it, but still Nevada could decide for itself whether to keep her or not. In the end, she was released only in 2013 when she was 20 years old, and now she is doing her best to rejoin society. And it must be said that Nevada's popularity has skyrocketed since the incident. A sweatshirt with the English word Nevada on it began to sell out very quickly. When the store at the University of Nevada realized the reason for the popularity of the sweatshirt, it was immediately taken off the market. Nevada's fame went beyond the internet to the real world. She became a popular cosplayer among Japanese women and beyond. Hundreds of pictures were drawn of her, ranging from the very harmless to the extremely violent. In conclusion, Nevada Tan's story is certainly tragic, but it also sheds light on mental health issues and societal pressures. It shows how easily a person can be consumed by their obsessions and the long-lasting effects cyberbullying can have.